Hello once again to our RGK series of podcasts where we're basically celebrating the return of Paralympic sport after so long because of COVID and because of lockdowns. And over the course of these podcasts, I will be chatting to a number of Paralympic sporting greats, we're just having a good chin wag, finding out more about them and just generally having fun. And today I am joined by none other than Sophie Carrigill, wheelchair basketball player extraordinaire, former captain of GB women's team, double Paralympian, should I say? Yes. Sophie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, glad to be on. Thanks for having me. Yeah, looking forward to chatting.
Excellent. First question is, that doesn't look really Italian to me, that background. You know what I mean? Is that tutti Wakefield there?
Not quite, not even there. So yeah, I'm meant to be in Italy. I was for 3 weeks, but due to some lovely issues that Brexit has caused for us, I'm back here just sorting out a bit of paperwork and whatnot that nobody really knew that we had to do before I can actually play some games, which is why I'm out there, obviously playing my first professional basketball club, my first time playing in Italy and in a playing abroad, which is so exciting. But yeah, I should be back within the next couple of days, fingers crossed.
Who knew that in an RGK sporting podcast we would be able to shoehorn in Brexit? Sophie, man, you're just dropping the political bombs.
I am, yeah. I am very political. Don't worry, that's as much as I've got. This will not be a political chat at all.
It's all good. It's all good. So you mentioned about you signing your first professional contract and going out to Italy. You're playing. You're playing in Cantu, isn't it? Is it for Brianza? Yeah. Is it Brianza 84? They called.
It is. Yeah.
Tell us about that and what that was like and how it all came about.
Yeah, just amazing. Honestly, I've always sort of had it in the back of my mind that I would have loved to have that experience. Obviously on the men's side of the game, they do that a lot more. Most of the men's squad for GB are out there playing in Italy, Spain, Germany, the big leagues out there. And it's always been something that I've been interested in and thought if the time was right, I'd love to pursue something like that. But sort of was never really the right time for me. And I think as women, we're a bit more reluctant to put ourselves out there, especially because you'd be playing in a mixed team and obviously men are first, I suppose, and we can get on to how I'd love to see a women's professional league out there, but it's you're a bit reluctant, I guess, in some senses. And they just approached me actually and said they'd be interested in talking and negotiating, communicating, whatever, to chat about the potential of me going out there. And it was, obviously going to be after Tokyo, and I thought it was a really good time for me to do it. And even though I've just moved here in with my boyfriend in the UK and obviously into a really nice house, and we've done it all up and stuff, but actually the house will always be there. And those sort of opportunities that arise like through your career, they're not always going to be there. I could have said no and maybe in a few years' time thought about it again, and they might not have wanted me at that point. So I'm very much a yes person anyway. So when these opportunities arise, I'm always like, yeah, I've got to go do it. And even if you hate it, at least you've learned something from it. You've gone and experienced something new. And honestly, I know I've only been there for 3 weeks already, but it's just the most amazing experience. Trying to learn a new language, a completely different culture, just embracing.
Hold on, go on, give us some Italian. Come on.
Oh God. Io sono Sophie. I know all the swear words, to be honest, so I'm not sure that's appropriate for the podcast.
This is not that sort of podcast. We might do late night with Sophie podcast at another point, but not now. But I did like the Is that a Yorkshire accent?
Oh, massively, yeah.
Yeah, I did like the Yorkshire Italian. It's all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's learning the accent and how they say things, because it's just so different. And yeah, I've held on to that Yorkshire accent no matter where I've moved.
Brilliant. Well, listen, if Ian Sagar can speak Italian, flipping hell, you must be able to speak it straight away.
Yeah.
One of the what can I say? It's something that's specific to wheelchair basketball and disability sport. Is at the top level, you can get women and men playing in the same team. What is that like? You know, and you come from an able-bodied world, because I mean, you've only been disabled for about 10 years. Yeah. What was that like to get your head around that? And what is it like being a female in a men's team, or in a mixed team, should I say?
Yeah. It's definitely different. And it is unique to wheelchair basketball, you know, as a disability sport. Yeah, it's crazy. I think because my journey into wheelchair basketball was always through mixed teams. I started out with the Leeds Spiders, and that was always mixed. So I think my sort of introduction into that world was always that was how it was. And it's a shame really that there's just not enough women playing to make it viable to do more women's leagues. Obviously in the UK now we've started the women's league, trying to make that professional, and hopefully that takes off and recruits more players. But I think I'd always known that it was, you know, in a mixed sort of setting, so it's not really been that weird for me. But you know, the past 5 or 6 years at least, we've been centralized as a women's team, and we've played day in day out as the GB national team. And yeah, tapping into other clubs as and when. But in the UK, the club system's not the same as it is out in Spain, Italy, you know, Germany, the likes of those leagues, where in the UK you probably train once or twice a week with your club team, whereas in Italy I'm training twice a day with my club team. So for us, we've always had it the other way around, where that's always been with your national team. With Great Britain, we've done that centralized sort of program. Yeah, but it was daunting, like going in, you know, to that new club, a new environment with people that you know, I've never even met before.
And with all due respect, a much higher level than the level of the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to go. You know, I want to develop myself as an athlete. I want to be the best that I can possibly be, and putting myself in that environment is a massive challenge. But one that I was glad to, on the first training session, I was honestly so nervous, as you would be going into that environment, and being the only woman as well, of course. But the guys, they were so lovely and made me feel so at home and just welcomed me. And it was a great, I feel like I was so proud, like I held my own, like I felt like I was competing with them, which is a real confidence boost. And to sort of give yourself that, yeah, I deserve to be here, like I'm good enough, you know. So yeah, but they've been great.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that could be a difficulty is having that imposter syndrome, especially like for you being a woman in a team that's mostly men, well, all men, and also the fact that if you don't mind me saying, but you've only been in the sport a really short period of time, and you seem to have packed in so much in that period of time. You know, what has that been like, and how have you been able to keep yourself, you know, level-headed and mentally focused? I know you're a sports psychology major. You know, how has all of that helped you?
I think doing a degree, no matter what it was, kept me grounded, I think, and kept every year, you know, you were starting a new course, a new module, a new year of university. And I did my undergrad, and then I went on and did a master's as well. And I think having experience outside of sport is so valuable. Like for me, it's not about just being an athlete. It's about you're more than that. You can be more than that. And it's how you sort of balance your days to make sure that you're doing more that fulfill you. And for me, there's lots of different things that I get a lot of pleasure from, obviously basketball being a massive part of my life and being the main thing. but having those other things alongside it that you can focus on, I think allow you just to take each year as it comes and develop. And we had a great centralized program for a really long time, and I was able to be a student and an athlete at the same time. That did mean for about 5 years training at 7 o'clock every morning, but those are the choices that you make if you want to be able to do both of those things. So it has been a massive whirlwind, and like you say, probably jam-packed quite a lot into the past 10 years. But as I said to begin with, you know, I take every opportunity that comes, and I feel like I'll go after things. And I think that's what's just happened, and it sort of led me to where I am now.
I guess we should really fill in the dots as well for people who don't know you and know your background and know your journey. Can you talk a little bit about how you ended up in a wheelchair and got your acquired your disability?
Yeah, for sure. So I was 16, living my best life, I think, as a young, confident 16-year-old. I'd just done my GCSEs at school, and I was, you know, planning my whole future and where I wanted to go in life. And you just don't expect traumatic, life-changing things to happen to you. It never crosses your mind. But that's what happened. You know, I was unlucky. I was in a car accident. The guy was lost control of the car, driving 60 miles an hour round a 90-degree bend, which was a mad, stupid mistake, you know, but we all make them, and they sometimes don't end up in life-changing things happening to people, and you're lucky. But that mistake led to obviously something life-changing for me, and I was paralyzed from the waist down, and left, you know, not being able to walk and using a wheelchair permanently. And it happened out in America, so I was there for about 2 months. I wasn't even with my immediate family, so mum, dad and my brother all had to fly out, and on that journey flying out, they didn't know whether I was going to be alive at the end of it, because I was having a lot of internal surgery, because the seatbelt that I wore basically ruptured a lot of my organs internally. So it wasn't just breaking my back, it was all that sort of was going on as well. And thankfully for me and for them, I was alive when they landed. And I suppose then that's when the journey of, you know, rehabilitation starts. And I spent a few months over there and a few months back here at Pinderfield Spinal Unit, and just, you know, getting back to what I thought was a normal life. You know, for me, that was going back to school and being around my friends and sort of trying to integrate back into that as much as possible. And it was about a year after that I sort of realised there was a big part of my life missing, which, you know, was sport. And I'd played sport from literally the day I could walk. I think I was playing sport. I'd grown up in a really sporty family, and we were always really active. And, you know, I played tennis, hockey, netball, anything. I, you know, drove my parents mad going to all the extracurricular activities after school. And, you know, so I realised that was a big part of my life that was missing. And then the reason, that I found wheelchair basketball, really.
Talk to me about what were the coping mechanisms you used, and you know, how are you able to be you, because it's such a traumatic thing that happened to you and your family. And I don't want to bring back any harsh memories, but I just want maybe something that could help someone else who might be going through, or who could go through what you've been through. How are you able to get through it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's really important to talk about as well, because like you say, it might, you know, bring back harsh memories, and some people don't like talking about it. But for me personally, I get a lot of comfort actually in sort of reliving those moments, and the year especially afterwards, because it actually reminds me how much strength you have as a person, like, and how much, without even knowing, you can tap into those coping mechanisms, like you said. And if you can just take each day as it comes, it does get easier. And time is like the best healer ever. You know, people always say that when things happen that aren't great, and I'm like, I don't believe you, but it really is. And I can say that from experience now. And I think for me, like, some of the biggest things that helped was my support network. For me, that was my family. For other people, it might be friends or work colleagues even, or, you know, teammates if they've come from a sport. Just having that network around you that can be there on your down days, but can be there to uplift you as well. And for me, it was very much putting on that brave face for them to make sure that they knew that I was going to be okay. And, you know, I think it's the worst thing possible to happen to one of your children as a mum or a dad. I just can't imagine it. Obviously, I've not got any children at the moment. I would love to, but that must just feel like the worst thing. So I think for me, being strong for them helped me, and also just getting back to what I felt like was normal. So a massive life-changing thing happens, but life does go on and you have to find a way to adapt. I think that's where my sort of yes person personality has come from, is just having to crack on with things and having to find a way and do things differently. But I had such a love for life, and, you know, I obviously still do, but I wanted to keep that. And I think in order to keep that, I had to keep doing the things that I love doing, but just finding different ways to do them. So it's about just being flexible in your mindset, I think, and being able to adapt and change the way you do things, and don't put barriers in your way. There's a lot of barriers in the environment that we live in for disabled people that, you know, need tackling still, but you can also put barriers on yourself. And that's something that I really tried not to do. And I think having, you know, really outgoing friends still, and the same sort of circle of friends that I grew up with, they made sure that I never couldn't do anything. They'd make sure that I was always still involved. So I guess hopefully there was a few tips in there, I guess.
There was definitely a lot of really valuable information in there. What was the hardest thing to come to terms with, and how were you able to deal with that?
The hardest thing that I felt initially was that I'd lost my competitiveness in sport, and lost my ability to play sport at a really high level.
Why?
Well, that was just me, you know, that first year. It's so funny, and I remember when this then happened, but I thought, I was like, I'm never going to be able to get like a stitch again. You remember, like, running about.
I know. Wait till you get to my age, you get a stitch getting out of bed.
But that was what I thought. I was like, oh, it's never going to feel the same. Like, I was obviously knew that disability sport existed and that I could play it. I thought it's just never going to feel the same, like feeling that, like, to be able to run, to be able to just get up and sprint somewhere. Those sorts of things were the hardest things to get over initially. Doing things quickly. You know, one guy when I was in hospital told me, when now you've got a disability, things are going to take you 4 times as long to do. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have the time for that. Like, I need to be able to do things quickly. And I was always really worried that, like, I'd always slow people down. Like, if I was pushing along, I thought I'd be slower than everybody. But that's not true at all, because wheels are so much faster than walking, and I'm so much faster than everyone now that they can't keep up with me, you know.
What you got to learn, Sophie, is we are in the next stage in evolution. Those two-leggers, I call them good old-fashioned two-leggers, you know, because they're from the other stage. They just can't, especially if you were in Tokyo, the pavements were so smooth there. I felt like I was turbocharged when I was going. So it's amazing. It's really interesting, those things that you talk about, you know, the worries about slowing, being slow and letting other people down, and coping with those barriers as well. And, you know, these are all the things that society throws upon us. And I always find it really fascinating for someone who was able-bodied to then become disabled. Now, what were your thoughts? What did you think about people with disabilities before you had a disability, if you even did think about us?
No, it is so weird, that change in identity. Like, you know, it's massive. But I didn't really know anybody with a disability. You know, I was 16 when my accident happened, and I will absolutely hold my hands up and say I lived a sheltered life without, you know, real life experience. You know, I grew up in the same town, I went to the same school for the first 16 years of my life, yeah, we traveled and went on holidays and stuff, but you know, I didn't have life experience, and there wasn't the social media that there is now that allows you to sort of explore other areas of life from your sofa, you know. So I you know, I can't say no opinion, but I would have been guilty of looking at people with a disability and thinking, oh, I wonder what's happened to them, you know, or whatever that thought would have been. And that is why it's so interesting, someone who, yeah, has been able-bodied and lived that life. You know, I've lived more years able-bodied at the moment than I have disabled. So that switch, and I think that was one of the biggest things I struggled with, sort of coming to terms with this new identity as a, you know, a young woman at 16 who's going through all these changes anyway, who's figuring out who they are as a person, and then you throw on top of that a whole new identity. As a disabled woman, I think it took me a while to like embrace that, and now I'm like fully celebrate it. You know, I'm so proud of who I am. But that big identity change definitely, it definitely was something I had to get my head around.
Yeah, you've touched on something that I really wanted to delve into as well, is that tell me about, you know, getting your head around and the experience now of being a young disabled woman. You know, because there are so many I know things that society throw upon us, and I took a bit of time to look at your Instagram page and to see your confidence, your body confidence, you know, which for young women, able-bodied women, is quite difficult as well. You know, I know there was a lot of, when I was trying to get more young women into sports, one of the things that they were worried about was what the physicality and training, what that would do to their bodies. Would they feel as feminine? And then when you add on top of that, having a disability, you know, talk to me about that, what that world is like and what you're trying to get across with your Instagram posts and your page.
Yeah, it's such an important topic for able-bodied and disabled women. This whole culture of needing to look a certain way to be accepted or to be valued. You know, we've gone through so many different phases through, you know, the generations of, you know, 20, 30 years ago, it was, you've got to be as thin as humanly possible and look like a skeleton. And then it was the whole generation of, you need the Kim Kardashian like style. Yeah, exactly. So it's like a fashion, that whole what you're supposed to look like, which in my mind just is absolute nonsense. You know, everyone is so different, and you can't look like the person on the front of the magazine, you know, because you're you, and that's what makes you so amazing. You're different. And I think just, I'd like to celebrate difference. And I almost was not given a choice, because so due to all the surgeries that I've had, I have a ton of scars all over my body.
That's another thing I wanted to point out, because watching it, looking at your page, it was so fascinating, because, you know, there's times you're in a bikini and you've got your scars all down your stomach, and all your other things that come with your disability, and I find it fascinating, because for myself, when I look at myself, I come from a different era. I'm far older than you, and there wasn't social media, there wasn't this place to what do I call it? I call it this curated perfection, where people are constantly photoshopping and all of that stuff. And I was very body conscious, and I would never, maybe for the first 20 years of my life, I would never wear shorts. I would never want people to see my legs and to see the scars on my legs, or see that they were skinny or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you know, you've only been disabled like 10 years, and you're like, bam, let's have it.
I think just because those scars, and this is getting deep, but they are the reason I'm alive. Like, that was life-saving surgery that I had, that meant that I am now here, and I get to live every day, and I get to embrace the highs and the lows that this wonderful life brings us. That a scar on my body doesn't define who I am. It even though it, you know, it sort of does, because it saved my life. but it doesn't make me less of a person or less attractive or less confident. It's just me. And I think I'm just very accepting of of just who I am now. And don't get me wrong, that's been a journey, because that wasn't always the case, and it's, you go in, you mentioned about women wanting, starting sport, and it does change your body type if you start to lift weights. It, you do get muscly, but that's what I want to be as an athlete. But I still have that conflict in my mind, like one day, oh God, my arms are so big compared to blah, 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 But then the other days I'm like, damn, I need bigger, stronger muscles to make sure I can push my chair faster. So we all still live with that conflict in our minds, I think. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just being accepting of those emotions and those thoughts, and knowing that you're still you, and celebrating everything about you that makes you who you are. So yeah, I think I'm lucky that I obviously have that mindset, and we live in a society where, not many people get to that place. And I'd like showcasing that, because I think representation of any type of woman, any type of person, in all the different demographics is so important, that we're more representative of the society that we live in, on social media or on television or what, in magazines, whatever it is. So if I can do my tiny little bit on my Instagram to put myself out there and show that, living with a disability, trying to break down those perceptions of what people think living with a disability is like, trying to change people's minds, and that they think we're all sat at home not doing anything, which isn't the case, so you can still live a completely fulfilled life. And I just like to showcase that, I suppose. And if I'm doing a tiny little bit, then that's, I've done myself proud.
and talking about showcasing yourself and representing disability, I've seen you're an ambassador for Sweaty Betty, which is it's a female clothing line. Now, how important is it that we have women, disabled women, and women of all different body types representing these big brands?
Yeah, massive. It's huge. It's the one thing that I think is my vision for, my life, and something that I'll carry on trying to sort of advocate for, is that representation of all types of women is so important. You need to be seen. And I think I'm so passionate about it, because when I acquired my disability, like I've talked about, I didn't know anybody. I didn't see anybody before that had a disability that I could relate to, that I could sort of, in those early months, 6 months after acquiring a disability, could see online or see in a magazine. And it's that stereotype of the magazine front cover, it's all airbrushed and all perfect, and that's not what a life with a disability is like. It's actually not what anybody's life is like, forget having a disability. So I just think it's amazing that brands are becoming more representative and becoming more aware that if they want to, really, it's marketing, isn't it? If they want to sell their clothes, they need to be selling to a full audience. Disabled people in the UK represent 1 in 5 people, and we're absolutely not represented 1 in 5 times, not at the moment, but that's going to change. So the brands that are doing it are leading the way, and people will follow, and people will realize that that's a massive consumer market as well, if you're thinking just about sales, but also not about sales, about morals, and just wanting to be a good brand, a good company that is conscious of who they're marketing to, I suppose.
Yeah, brilliant. I guess we got sidetracked. Well, not sidetracked. I mean, we're having this great chat on things that I think are really important. But I didn't really get a chance to talk to you about Tokyo, and the Paralympics, and what was that as an experience for you? I know, but it probably wasn't the end. Well, it definitely wasn't the ending you wanted. But as an overall experience.
Yeah, I mean, Tokyo is a place, Japan as a country is amazing. I love it there. I've been lucky enough to travel there quite a few times with basketball. And as you know, traveling the world playing the sport that you love is pretty incredible. So love the country, and the people are just great. I suppose the experience on the basketball court, like you said, was not what we wanted, was not what we hoped for. A lot of things I think that led to that result were, you know, months previous to that, you know, how COVID affected us, the sort of choices we made around, you know, being really safe and getting a team out there safe meant that we didn't have any warm-up tournaments, or we were restricted in the close contact sort of games we were playing even with each other.
Do you think that was a mistake, or what do you think? Do you regret that?
I think, I mean, personally, I would have liked to have maybe taken risk, but in hindsight's a wonderful thing. If we'd have done exactly the same thing and come home with a medal, I'd have said, yes, we did the most amazing preparations, you know, and I wouldn't have questioned it. It's only because we sort of went in, we didn't do as well as we hoped, that you think back to all of those other decisions, don't you? But yeah, I think there's lots of things that led to that, you know, but we'd gone from second in the world at the World Championships in 2018 and we were on a real good trajectory, and COVID did just come and rock everyone's world, like, as we all know, in whatever way that was. And I think it did have a big impact on us playing and the amount of time we got to spend as a team. But you know, those experiences are sent to challenge you, and I always feel like challenge provokes change, and that's probably what we needed, is something that could create a bit of change within how we did things. And we're heading off to Europeans soon. It's not long away, it's in December. And I think we've got an opportunity to sort of redeem ourselves. You know, that wasn't, and that wasn't us. You know, anyone that's followed the team knows that that performance in Tokyo was very unlike us. So I think that's a positive, that it wasn't like that's normal for us. That was actually a sort of a freak sort of tournament that, you know, you never want that to happen at a Paralympic Games, because that's the pinnacle of our whole careers. And I was, you know, really hopeful and really confident going into it that we were in a good place, and actually just that game time and those sort of, you need time before the big games to make those mistakes and to be able to iron them out, and we just didn't have that. But going into Europeans, and then obviously it's Paris isn't far away now, and we sort of shift our focus onto that now and learn from the mistakes we made. And
I was going to say, what do you feel the GB women's team need to do to take that next step, to be consistent medalists and ultimately to be at the top of the rostrum? That's
the thing, isn't it? It's that consistency. I think that's what we're aiming for, is to be consistently in that top 3 in the world, that consistently medaling. What do we need to do? How long have we got? Yeah, I don't mean that just because I could talk about it for forever. I think it's really, we've had a lot of change over the past few years, and I think that affects the team a lot. So I think just consistency until Paris, you know, the same coach involved, the same staff involved. We've changed up the program quite a bit. We're not centralized anymore, and the girls are.
Is that better or worse?
I think it will be better, because I think it allows people to go and do the training that they want to do outside of, you know, a centralized program, and then we come in together, have camps together, and it can be really intensive. And I think we've put the work in over those 6-7 years of being centralized, that we put that work in. We've got the foundations. It's just about excelling in those big games. And for me, like, I've done a sports psychology degree and a master's, and that's something that I think all athletes need to be tapping into more. Like, mental strength and, you know, mental health as a whole anyway is such an important topic that is becoming more and more talked about and getting the exposure that it deserves. But as an athlete, you know, taking that mental health and taking it into a mental strength, performing under pressure, performing at the, you know, on the highest stage, the biggest stage that you could ever be on as a Paralympian. I think that's maybe what we need to tackle as well. You know, that sort of
to put yourselves under more pressure lots more times.
Yeah.
So when you get to that stage, you're used to it. You're used to doing it. It becomes second nature.
Yeah. You've got to practice that. You've got to put yourself in that environment to be able to know what it feels like. And that's why having experienced players on the team is good, because they've done that a lot. So yeah, it's a mixture of a few things, but we're so close to that. We were so close, and I think we've got a point to prove at Europeans, and I think we're just gunning for it now.
Yeah, that's great. GB women's team with a chip on their shoulder.
Absolutely.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out, world.
Yeah.
Watch out, Europeans.
Don't mess
Hey, listen, Sophie, I could talk to you forever, but we've got loads more stuff to do and people to speak to. And also, we've got the most important part of this podcast, which is the quickfire questions. I don't know if you've heard about the quickfire.
I've heard about it, but I'm looking forward to it.
Good. So I've got a minute of quickfire questions for you. I'm getting my stopwatch here ready. Let me put it on the timer. It's a minute. So I'm going to ask you some quickfire questions. They're like either or questions. You can't think about it. It's got to be the first thing that comes to your brain, right? Don't start psychologically analyzing it or anything like that. Just say it. Just go, that. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sophie Carrigill, are you ready for the RGK quickfire question round?
Yes, I am.
Let's do this. Speed or height?
Speed.
Hit the game-winning shot or make the game-winning steal?
Steal.
Piano or guitar?
Ooh, piano.
Ketchup or mayonnaise?
Ketchup.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Champagne or Prosecco?
Champagne.
Arancini balls or Yorkshire pudding with lashings of gravy?
Yorkshire pudding all day.
Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs.
The River Calder or Lake Como?
Lake Como.
Marvel or DC?
Oh, DC.
LeBron James or Kevin Durant?
LeBron.
Chicken or egg, which came first?
Chicken.
iOS or Android?
iOS.
House or hip hop?
House.
Grime or hip hop?
Ooh, hip hop.
Beach holiday or ski holiday?
Beach.
Done. Wow. You smashed it. You absolutely smashed it.
Nice.
No thinking, just done it.
Those are some good questions.
There you go. Don't say I don't think about these things.
No, you did. I could tell. Put the work in.
Well, I like the way you were straight in. I mean, you were not very, should I say, appreciative to your new home that you're going to. Definitely, you're going to have Yorkshire pudding before arancini balls. So you're not in there with the Italians.
No.
And you've gone champagne rather than Prosecco. The Italians will not be having that.
Yeah, no. Trust me, anyone who chooses Prosecco over champagne, they need to have a word with.
On that note, Sophie, I think we'll need to leave it. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, me too.
Good luck with your future season at Brientia. And I really hope it goes well and you can get out there as sooner than later.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ade. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.